This is what I found out from Department of Education. It's going to be very difficult to do this. They have no idea the threats that came from the big, beautiful bill, because the only thing we're talking about is that July 1st date. But there's other nightmares on the horizon. You need to start thinking about what your next options are going to be. This is the time for you to be proactive.
If someone is trying to buy a home in the next 6 to 12 months, what should they do about their student loans right now?
Now, this is where it gets a little complicated.
What should every borrower do as soon as they watch this video?
As soon as they watch this video and it ends, they need to...
Hello, everyone. My name is Calvin Russell with 850 Club Credit. Thank you all so much for being here today as we have another special guest speaker. All right. Now, listen, this took some work to get this young lady on this platform, and this is time sensitive information. Okay. So get your notepads out, because you guys got to get this information and make sure that you do everything she says to do. Okay. In this video. All right. But listen, of course, I want to make sure that we do a great introduction for her. Okay. Because not only did she take out time to make sure that she had time for this interview, but the research that she's done, and she's well sought after, especially when we're talking about this particular topic today. So this young lady, she is a financial wellness keynote speaker. She helps students and employees build financial confidence. She's an author, a consultant, a TV correspondent, and a corporate and university workshop person that does those things as well. All right. So either way, let's go ahead and get started. And we want to go ahead and introduce you all to none other than Miss Janae Adams. So Janae, can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you for having me.
All right. Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get right into it. So recently you were speaking on a major news network about a couple of weeks ago. And not only did that video go viral, but specifically because there's a lot of people that have student loans, and there are changes that I don't think people understand that is about to happen, and they need to know their options. So I got a lot of questions for you today, but but before we go too deep into this, can you first off tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to stay on top of the student loan changes like this?
So I am Janae Adams. I am a financial strategist. I personally paid off $50,000 of debt in 2 years. So that's what got me started on this journey, full-time
Wow.
entrepreneurship for the last 15 years. And so $25,000 of the 50 grand was student loans from marriage. And that is what got me into this line of work. And I didn't know it was going to get as deep as it has been. It started with speaking to college students and staff and faculty and so forth, but it got me into student loan policy as well. So that's where all of this came from. I've read the big beautiful bill, the House version, the Senate version, and then the final version. So that was a few thousand pages, probably about 2,500 pages of all these different policies, but part of it was student loan policy. So that's how we have gotten here today.
Wow. Awesome. That's absolutely amazing. 50,000 in 2 years, and under 2 years, man. I know that took some discipline and a lot of saying no to things for sure.
Yes, yes, it did.
All right. All right. So now let's get into the time sensitive information. As we know, literally, this is right around the corner.
Yes.
So there are plenty of people that have student loans. Tell us exactly what's happening and what people should prepare for. If you're looking to increase your credit score, qualify for homeownership, or lower your monthly car payment, we can help you. We can take a look at your credit report and create a custom game plan for you to help you accomplish your credit goals. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
Yeah, so if you've been under a rock, if you have not seen it somewhere, whether it was media, whether it was TV, articles have been written about this July 1st date. And so we have over 40 million borrowers out there, student loan borrowers. So everybody's panicking. They're getting these letters. And that July 1st date is what is causing all of this confusion. So hopefully we can kind of answer some questions today and kind of put some people at ease.
Absolutely. That is the goal today. That is the goal. And let me go ahead and go with my first question. All right. So now, first things first, for people who are just hearing about this, like you said, some people have been living under a rock, or they've been really ignoring the letters, the phone calls, just all the hoopla about student loans in general. But like back in the day, people would, ignore certain things. And it wasn't until they got into default that they took it seriously. But in this particular case, for people who are just hearing about this, what is exactly happening on July 1st?
So now basically the student loan changes that came because of the big, beautiful bill. they are happening July 1st. But at the same time, you have student loan services sending out these letters to people in SAVE at the same time. So everybody's just kind of confused, like, what is really the July 1st? And what it really is that those who, let's say they're in college now, they're going to college, they are going to be the ones that probably are going to end up in the two repayment plans, which is the new standard repayment and a wrap. So that's repayment assistance plan, which is 30 years. And so people are hearing that and getting scared. You also have parent plus borrowers who are going to be affected. And then grad plus loans are going away. The student aid index with Pell Grant, it's a lot of changes that are happening, but it doesn't affect majority of the borrowers. And I think that's where the disconnect is.
Let's talk about that. Okay, so now, why is this such a big deal for borrowers right now?
Mhm.
And I know everyone's not affected, but we'll get into that in a second. But
Yes.
why is this such a big deal?
So I would say the big deal is because there are people who need to consolidate their loans. And right now, because of the July 1st date, if you consolidate your loans in a certain way, then guess what? You become like a new borrower. And if you become a new borrower, you no longer have access to the current repayment plans, which are the income driven repayment plans. So that is your SAVE, that is your IBR, as in boy, income based repayment, that is ICR, in contingent repayment plan. And so, and save, which is going away, right? That's the
Mm,
old repay plan. Then we got pay as you earn. So all of these individuals, they are being told that they might have to consolidate their loans. And to be honest with you, they don't have time. Okay. And so to be able to do that before July 1st, because people think, okay, if I do my application, I'm good before July 1st. The loan has to be dispersed before. And that's where the tricky part is. So people
mhm,
really right now, at the time of their you and I are talking, are
yeah,
kind of with their back against the wall of what decision to make. They might
yeah.
have to just stay in their repayment plan they're in order to without consolidating. And that's where it's going to get tricky for a lot of borrowers.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you got to do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Let's go further into that then. So now, who's most at risk when it
Mhm.
comes to this scenario, especially with these changes that are happening?
So I would say the people who are closest to that July 1st day at risk is our parent plus borrowers. So parent plus borrowers, if their student loans that they have not been consolidated in the way that they should be in order to move into what I call ICR. So that's one of the repayment programs. If they have not been able to consolidate and get into ICR, then they can't get into income based repayment. So those are the ones that are at risk the most right now that have been in repayment before. Those individuals at Parent Plus loans, they need to be able to consolidate those loans, get into ICR, and make one payment before June 30th, 2028. So
Wow.
though the Parent Plus loan individuals that are watching this right now, you really need to reach out to the Department of Education at studentaid.gov right now. You really need to do that right now. And I will tell you this, for those that are in college right now, this is what I found out from the Department of Education. It's going to be very difficult to do this. Okay. But I want to let parents know, I want to let the students know. I talked to the Department of Education. I said, you all said that if you're in college right now and have borrowed money before, you can continue to borrow under current limits, because there are new student loan limits coming as well that people need to know. But
Mhm.
you are able to continue to borrow. I said, well, that's interesting. They can continue to borrow, but are they going to be able to get in the current repayment plans when they graduate? And they said, well, if they haven't been in repayment before, unfortunately, they can't. And I said, it's 18 million college students, and I'm sure a lot of them are in student loan debt, and they or their families don't know this. And so I said, what can they do? And they told me, they said, well, they would have to get a repayment plan before July 1st. And this was a week ago. And I said, it takes weeks to get approved for a repayment plan. So what you're telling me is that everybody in college right now who borrowed money before July 1st, these individuals can continue to borrow money, but they are only going to be able to be in the new standard repayment plan or the wrap program, which is 30 years, and they don't even know this.
Wow.
That's it. And she said, yes. And
Wow.
so now I have to, whenever I go on college campuses, have to say, all of you are now don't have the options that your parents had or your family members had. You only have standard and wrap. And I hope your institution is preparing you for either one of those options, because those two options are not on your discretionary income like all the other repayment programs that people have now. It's on your gross, adjusted gross income. So you
Can you break
automatically going to pay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, no, no. I'm sorry. You go ahead. You go ahead. I got my
Yeah.
question because now
Okay.
now I'm thinking of other because I'm like, okay, I want to make sure people fully understand this. But you go ahead, finish your
Mhm.
thought.
Yeah, so the current repayment plans that we've already discussed, the income driven repayment plans are on discretionary income. The wrap will be on adjusted gross income, and so with the new standard. So it automatically, the math works out to be higher because you're using more of
Mm,
your income. So that is what
right.
people need to prepare for.
Got you. Okay.
Yes.
Now, can you explain to us what does it mean when you say discretionary income versus adjusted gross income?
Yeah, so the current repayment plans look at, your percentage of your income above the poverty level. And so I don't want to get too much in the weeds because some of them are 150% of the the poverty
Yeah.
lines. The most generous one was SAVE. Now that's what 7 million people are in right now. And that was
Mm,
225% of the poverty line. And so imagine, so automatically anybody coming out of Save is going to pay more. So those that's watching that's in Save and you change to any repayment plan, and none of them are that generous. And Save was the one that the Biden administration brought in, that all the Republican attorney generals sued and ended up winning in the Trump administration. So that's why
mm,
you all are getting those letters. So the last administration did try to help, fix our $1.7 trillion student loan debt problem and
wow.
have help people be able to pay it back. But now we're in a position where people are going to really have to make some choices in their monthly spending plans.
Wow. So
I know
okay,
it's a
so
lot.
it is. No, it is because this is truly going to affect a lot of people because when people get out of college, they're thinking about how can I they're thinking about their future life. They're saying, okay, you know
Yes.
what? I need a car. I
Hmm.
want the American dream, so I may want to get a
Yes.
home at some point.
Yes.
And then you start thinking about you're not even thinking about a relationship,
Yeah.
So, but then that may happen. You may get married. What if you have a kid? So
Hmm.
all of these things is most definitely going to play a role while you still have other rising costs that
Yes.
have still yet to come down.
Yes.
So now, in your opinion, is this mostly affecting people that are already in some type of repayment program?
Mhm.
Or is this mainly affecting new borrowers or a little bit of both?
It is a little bit of both. So when I say for those that are in repayment, if they have to consolidate, and that's what I kept telling people, they was like, "Does this affect me?" I said, if you have to trigger a new loan before July 1st, as somebody who's already been in repayment, yes, it does affect you. But if you
Mm,
don't, then it doesn't. And so that's where people, I think, were confused about all these letters they were getting. Now, those that are new borrowers, yes, of course, everything that happened in the big beautiful bill, it is directed towards you. So
yeah.
those going into college, let's take an example. For those going into college, they're going to be new borrowers. The Pell Grant, people are not talking about this at all. The Pell Grant is changing. So Pell Grant is a little bit over $7,000. In the past, they have told everybody, and I still would tell everybody, it doesn't matter what your family's income is, do apply for the FAFSA. But in the past, depending on what your family made, you might get some of that Pell Grant. Now, if they do this new calculation, it's called 2 times the student aid index, and they can reach out to their financial aid office about all of those calculations. But if your financial situation is more than 2 times the student aid index, you now get nothing of the Pell Grant.
Mm,
So there are some people who got the Pell Grant maybe their freshman year, their sophomore year. They're going to go into their junior year, do the FAFSA, and find out they're $7,000 short and have to come up with
mm,
that money. So people are
wow.
thinking about this July 1st date so much that
Yeah.
they're missing out that we have a new Pell Grant situation, that there's only a $200,000 cap of federal student loans for people who want to be doctors and dentists, when that degree costs $400,000. They have no idea the threats that came from the big beautiful bill, because the only thing we're talking about is that July 1st date, but there's other nightmares on the horizon.
Wow. Let me write that down. She says, other nightmare. See, Janae, we're gonna have to have you back to keep us focused now. For real. Okay. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think we're talking about this enough. There's so
No,
much
not
that's
at all.
going on. Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much that's going on. But that made me think, about my next question too. So now you
Mhm.
said that people were getting confused about a few things. So what do you
Yes.
feel is the biggest misunderstanding that people have about these student loan changes overall?
That I don't think they know the type of plans they're in. So I had put a post on Instagram over a month ago, and it literally was I'm just frustrated. I'm done with this. I'm gonna tell y'all this and I'm done. And it got 1.4 million views and still going now, like 10,000 new followers. And I was just like, and what I found is people don't truly understand the different repayment plans. So when I said income-based repayment plan in the video, they people were talking about, don't you mean IDR? And I said, no. I said IDR is income driven repayment, and IBR is one of the IDRs. And then I had
Mm,
to educate people and say IDR is income driven repayment plans. Those plans are SAVE, which is the old repay. Then there's pay, P is PAYE, pay as you earn. There's IBR, income based repayment, and there's ICR. I said, and these are your options if you've been in repayment before. So I had to actually explain it completely out, because if people don't even know that, they don't even, once they get into studentaid.gov and look at their account, they're already lost. They have
mm.
no idea what they're doing. And guess what? Now the student loan servicers, they're the ones winning because of your lack of knowledge. So that's
Wow.
why I've seen the biggest confusion is people not understanding the plans that they are actually in.
And listen, and what's crazy is there is obviously people can call, whoever
Mhm.
their student loan provider is, but then,
Yes.
you're being on hold and then you don't
Yes.
know necessarily what questions to ask. And I
Exactly.
think and I think that also being on top of, let's be honest, people don't want to pay this stuff, so but we
Yeah.
have to, you know.
Yes.
Now I got lucky because I
Mhm.
was in college for about maybe 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna, just try entrepreneurship or something like
Oh,
that. I
okay.
can't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was at the time. And then of course, now my wife, she finished, but
Okay.
I ended up having a certain amount of student loans. And then
Mhm.
they called me and said, hey, we can settle this for like, I don't know, it was like $8,000. And
Okay.
I said, I don't have that, but can we get on the payment plan? And so, but
Mhm.
when I did the math, they saved me over at least about twelve to $13,000.
Okay,
And
awesome.
and I went to NIU. So this was right after like the shooting and all that stuff that had happened there. It
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah, it was crazy. So, but again, I have a lot of friends and college friends and just
Yes.
clients in general that and they're trying to figure out exactly where they are. But just like you said, they don't even know what plan that they're
Yes.
currently in right now or confused about. I thought it was only an IBR. When you said an IDR, I'm like, here we go. So but this is the type of conversation
Yes.
that we need to have. So now you did mention something about a save plan. Okay. So now
Yes.
what happens now to borrowers who are
Mhm.
currently in the save plan?
So those that are currently in the SAVE plan, I want to tell you that SAVE is dead. It's dead, ain't coming back. You need to start thinking about what your next options are going to be. Now, you all have, for majority of you all have received letters that you may be in administrative forbearance until 2028. Some people have got 2027. I want to help you understand that they have said that because they are trying to find enough time to get 7 million of you moved. They're not being generous that they're putting you in 2027, 2028. So at any time, they can send you that letter that says you have 90 days to pick a new plan. And if you do not pick a new plan in 90 days, they will put you in standard repayment, which is going to make it's going to be on a 10-year plan, not 20 or 25. So, when plans get shorter, repayment plans get shorter, your monthly payment gets higher because you have less time to pay it off. So, if you're somebody who wants to be in the current repayment plans, which average between 20 and 25 years, then guess what? You need to go to studentaid.gov, go to the student loan estimator, put your information in, and see what options you have. If you right now are in SAVE, you haven't been paying anything for years because it's been in forbearance and been in administrative forbearance. So that's going to stop. No longer this zero monthly nothing. Your interest is right now, SAVE people, your interest is growing. It's making your balance bigger every month. Also, each month is not count towards forgiveness ever since last year. So you're not getting closer to forgiveness as long as you're staying in SAVE. My people in public sector loan forgiveness. So this is PSLF. They know who I'm talking about. There are teachers. There are the people who are in state and federal government. There are our military, anybody in public service. You only have to pay 10 years, and then the rest is forgiven. Every month you stay and save, you are not getting closer to that. So I
Mm.
highly suggest those in PSLF get out of save and get into the lowest cost plan you can, monthly plan, to get that through.
And I'm sorry, and what is that PSLF again to make sure people got that?
Yes. So it's public sector loan forgiveness. So if you work for a not for profit, you work in the hospitals, you work, uh, like I said, teachers, firemen, military,
Yeah.
nonprofit leaders, working nonprofit, anything that's for the greater good and not a for profit, you are the one that have access to PSLF. So public sector loan forgiveness. That's you pay 120 payments, that's 10 years, and then they forgive the rest. So that's where I have helped people in the past, especially during the Biden administration. It was for a year and a half there, I got people $4.5 million in student loan forgiveness. Majority of that was PSLF.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. All right. Now, I also saw that on one of your videos on social media, you mentioned
Mhm.
something about like a 90-day time frame. Yes, July
Yes.
1st matters, but then also too that people have 90 days after receiving a notice to
Mhm.
choose another plan. So, in your opinion, what should they do as soon as they get that letter or that email?
Yes. So first and foremost, that this is for the borrowers in SAVE. So SAVE. These are the ones getting those letters. First and foremost, do not panic. Okay, do not panic. This is the time for you to be proactive. Please do not wait 75 days and then think you're going to get started with this process and your student loan servicer is going to get things done in time. I honestly believe you, once again, you need to go to studentaid.gov, put your information in there, look at what your options are, then actually talk to someone at the Department of Education through studentaid.gov so you have all of your ducks in a row before you reach out to the student loan servicer. I want everybody to understand the student loan servicers are third party contractors with the Department of Education. So the Department of Education is unbiased with their information. So that's why you need to consult with them first after you see what your options are. Then reach out to your servicer and say, this is what we're doing. This is what I want. I want this repayment plan and I want it done as soon as possible. And then you need to stay on them. You've got to get this application done and you got to get this payment in place before your 90 days, or they're going to
Mm.
switch you to a standard repayment plan.
Okay, let's talk about that standard repayment plan because I think this
Yes.
lines up with my next question. What is this? What happens if they ignore the notice or if they miss the deadline?
That is definitely what happens. What also happens is you're going to end up going into delinquency and default, and you're going to
Mm,
get your wages garnished and your tax refund taken next year. So that is the extreme part. But the least extreme is that they're going to put you in standard repayment. And if you think that coming out of SAFE and going into the other income driven repayment programs was going to raise your monthly payment, get into standard and see how much it raises it. So that
wow.
is like the last thing you want. You want to be in the income driven repayment ones
Yeah.
before you end up in standard.
Wow. Yeah. And because let's be honest, Janae. I think that people they're going to be upwards of $400 a
Mhm.
month, $500 a month, $600 a month, obviously based on how much they
Yes.
borrowed,
Yes,
as
exactly.
well too. And everyone has slightly different scenarios. Do you think it's better to go with one of these programs that you mentioned, or should people
Mhm.
start considering like getting a personal loan or refinancing? Should they consider that too, or do you feel
Mhm.
like what the government is offering is probably the best on the table?
If you go anywhere in the private route with these federal student loans, you're going to lose any protection from the federal student loans. You're not going to
Mm,
get forgiveness. You're not going to get anything. You're going to lose it all. So I definitely not anyone in public sector loan forgiveness. They got it the best.
wow.
They have it the best because they're doing a public good. That's what they're getting rewarded for. But
Yeah.
if everybody else just under, and this is for people who already have private student loans. So we have some people who have federal student loans. We have some people who have private student loans. I tell them keep that separate. Don't ever consolidate those two because then you lose the protections once again. And now you're everything will be under that private student loan, and it's just a lot harder to deal with than federal student
Okay.
loans.
And then now let's go into the next piece too, because
Hmm.
especially for those people who are still in save, and we know
Yes.
that, like you said, it's dead at this
Hmm.
point, right?
Yeah.
But should save borrowers, should they expect their payments to go up?
They should expect it to go up. Like I said, it was the most generous repayment plan ever introduced. And like I said before, it was through the Biden administration and their Department of Education under Secretary Cardona. It was 225% of the federal poverty line. So you had less and less of your income count towards that repayment part. They were looking at everything. Also, was making sure that your interest didn't, keep going up and making your balance go up. They were doing everything they can to give people an opportunity to say, I can now afford these payments. I want to, because people want to pay their student loans back. A
Yeah.
lot of people are out there and saying, people just don't want to pay. No, yes, they do. And they are trying. And this was an opportunity for them to try to do that. Everybody that's under save right now, because of that, it is going to go up. I don't know how much because it depends on your income, because your income when they first went into save, your income may be higher now. It's been a few
Mm,
years. You may have gotten a
yeah.
raise, and so you're calculating that in as well. And like I said before, people have been paying nothing before. So now you're definitely going to pay at least $1 more. So everybody's
Yeah.
payment is going to go up for sure.
Got you. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. Now you also mentioned about the RAP, and that is
Yes.
the repayment assistance plan.
Yes.
Again, something that people may not even know
No.
that exists, or even if they're on it. Can you break that down?
Okay, so this plan was introduced in the Big Beautiful Bill. So, what the Big Beautiful Bill, when it comes to the higher education student loan policy, what their whole goal was to take all of these supposedly confusing plans away and make it more simple.
Mm,
So, we are definitely going, everybody that's in repayment now, you are eventually going to have three options: standard repayment, the new one, which is different than the current one. You're going to have RAP and IBR. Every borrower after July 1st, you will only have the new standard and RAP. So, what is RAP? RAP is basically going to be the only income driven repayment plan. You all heard me say all these other ones before. Now, anybody after July 1st, you have one option, and it is 30
mm,
years long. It is a
wow.
mortgage. Basically, you're going to pay your student loans as a mortgage. So you have a mortgage for 30 years, you're going to have your student loans for 30 years paying it. That's the biggest thing. And like I said before, it's on your adjusted gross income when all the current repayment plans are on your discretionary income. So it is a big difference. And so what I am telling families now that have students in college or going to go to college in the future, please minimize your borrowing, because you're going to be forced to wrap because you're not going to be able to make the payments under standard or on your own.
Yeah, that was my next question. You just answered
Yeah.
it as well too. Okay, got it. Okay, now let's say, for example, let's kind of switch gears a little bit, because we know that people, they still have goals, right?
Yes.
So they still want to get a car. I was in the car
Mhm.
business. Student loans doesn't
Okay.
affect you buying a car. However, on the real estate side,
Yes.
it's one of those situations where I've seen people where they had to,
Hmm.
essentially change their plan or consolidate, or they had to go into an IBR.
Yes.
That was like I would say the most suggested option at
Hmm.
the time. And but obviously, things are about to change. So in
Yes.
your opinion, if someone is trying to buy a home in the
Hmm.
next 6 to 12 months, what should they do about their student loans right now?
I would say make sure first of all you're paying them. That is very important. But also to understand, now this where it gets a little complicated, because once
Yeah,
again during the Biden administration, Marcia which was over HUD, Fudge HUD. I
that's easy to
got right,
remember.
but yeah. So, but she did a lot of work in this area, and they did put it out there for loans that you got through the government, mortgages that you got through the government, that your student loan debt wouldn't count towards it, but that's only through mortgages that are federally backed. That is the difference. So if somebody, because that's where the issue is, it's always that debt to income ratio, and student loans can kill it. You know that they
Yeah,
can kill
100%.
it. Yeah, they can kill it. So, but at least with those that are federally backed mortgage loans, those should not, your student loan shouldn't count towards that debt to income ratio. So you can go that route. Now, everyone else, you're going to, it's just like the old times. You're going to have to make those payments so that everything still looks good. And maybe you're working with a local, financial institution that can look at you as a person and say, you've been in this community for a long time. I know you, Janae. I know you have a great job. You've been paying your rent on time, all of that kind of stuff. And maybe that's a way to have that relationship to kind of, get away from that student loan, balance that you have.
This is a lot for a lot of people,
I
that's going
know
to
it
be
is.
watching
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And we're not laughing at the scenario. We're more so saying, hey, listen, it's a lot of people
Hmm.
going through it, but that's
Yes.
why we're having this conversation.
Yes.
Okay. And so what would you tell someone who feels overwhelmed and
Yeah.
they just say, you know what, I just want to ignore it all?
You just can't. Not anymore. You can't ignore it anymore. And I know it's easy because for many people, they have not had to make payments.
Yeah.
It's been years. And so that's why this entire thing is so overwhelming for people right now, because we have higher gas prices, we have higher grocery prices. We're in a different economy than when they got into save. Then
Yeah.
2021, we're in a different economy. So they already got an expensive life, and now they got to add a student loan payment to it. And so that's what's throwing them off. So I would tell people, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a breath, think about what you have going on, and look at the numbers. That's what
Yeah.
you need to do. Look at your monthly spending plan and say, what can I cut out? What can I cut back on to make room for this $100, $200, $300 student loan payment? If you
Yeah.
look at everything, you're proactive, and you still say, I can't make these payments, then you need to talk to your servicer and see, can you get in forbearance or deferment. But understand that every time you go into one of those type of situations, your balance is growing. That's where the issue is. So you got to really sit down. You can't put your head in the sand. You got to really take the time and be an advocate for yourself and your future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then part of that obviously comes with,
Hmm.
execution, right?
Yes.
So, what should every borrower do as soon as they watch this video?
As soon as they watch this video and it ends, they need to go to studentaid.gov, sign into their account, go to the student loan estimator. If you're looking like what's your new payment going to be, that's where you're going to find it. If you need to choose a new plan because you're in safe, that's where you're going to find it. If you're in PSLF, you need to know how many months you have left in payments, that's where you're going to find it. All your information around student loans is there.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, Janae, you've been dropping gems this entire video. So listen, and if you all want us to bring Janae back, let us
Mhm.
know in the comments section. But also too, Janae, how can people, find you and just keep up with you,
Mhm.
along their financial journey?
Yeah, so my website is Debt Sucks University. So DEBT sucks SUCKS university.com. And then of course on Instagram, my name is Janae Adams Speak. It's spelled like Janet. So think about Janet Jackson, Janae Adams Speak. And that's where you can find me talking about money and finances on a daily basis.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Janae. We greatly appreciate you for stopping by, carving out your schedule, and making sure that people know what's about to happen in a very short period of time. We greatly appreciate you stopping by today. Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.